I'm being very careful now because I recorded an entire demo on my other machine for a different class, and it was recording incorrectly, and I had to do the whole recording over again. So I think this is working. And I will go ahead and share screen. All right, cool. So this is where we're at right now with this demo file here. So this is the mobile view, and we talked about last time where, even though this is taking up a lot of real estate and you don't want it to, ultimately this would all be, wrapped up inside the little pancake stack icon up here, where it'd be safely out of the way, tucked out of the way, and then someone would tap on it and it would drop down. So, but we're not going to get there this time. Front-end web development, we'll probably do that. And then we built one media query where the navigation changes. I figure, yeah, we've got enough room now to have these guys side by side, and so that's, I think, the only change. And both of those were done with Flexbox, and I think we haven't done anything beyond that. I had coded in 2 media queries. I'm just going to use one of them. So here I am in VS Code, and this is the CSS that we've got. So this is the last stuff that we did, where the navigation was given a display flex even for just the mobile view, so that we could take those links and we could stack them vertically. We did column no wrap up here, and then for the first media query we changed that direction to row no wrap so that they go horizontally instead of vertically. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of one of these media queries here. Gone. So I'm just going to be using this guy right here. And we'll go ahead and do we're not going to do anything to the, well, actually, we probably will do something to the nav. We'll probably organize this nav again, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to build 2 columns here, and I'm thinking that the header, which contains this H1 and the navigation, will be in the left column, and then this main element and the footer will be in the right column. So once we do that, when we take this whole thing and grab it and stack it over on the left-hand side, then we'll probably want the navigation to run vertically again. It probably won't have room for it to go this way. So we may wind up overriding that flex flow yet again when we do that. So let's go ahead and try the overall grid to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the page div, and I thought I had it, index page open here. There we go. So the page div is the one that holds everything, and this is why I was telling you guys a long time ago when we were building the structure for these pages. It's handy to have one container that holds all the rest of the stuff. And here's where I think you're going to see that can sometimes be true. It's holding the header and the nav and the footer all contained within a one parent, and that means that we can take that parent and we can start giving it a display property. So just like we took the nav before and did display flex on it, let's go ahead and take the page and we're going to do display grid, like so. And I'm going to start off just not doing anything else. I'm just going to do display grid and see what happens. So I'm going to save and refresh over here. Now it's only after 60 ems wide, so I'm going to pull this out and nothing is happening. So let's see, what am I doing wrong? I would have thought this would do something on its own. Hang on a second here. Div ID equals page, display grid, and let's give it a max width here. Let it go a little bit wider. I don't think this is it, but we had the max width up here of, actually we didn't do a max width up here. Where the heck is this? I'm looking through my code here. So this is what can happen when your code gets too long and you start hunting through it and you're like, where did I do that again? That's why it's so important to get these comments in here, because I'm already having a tough time, and without these I would have like 0 chance. So there's got to be some place where I took the page and gave it a max width. Okay, so here it is. This is actually slightly different from what I was intending to do. I was intending to use ems for everything, but that's okay. So the max width is 768 pixels here. So yeah, I can make it something different. I could do something like 960 pixels since I started out using pixels, and refresh, and Aha, that's why it's not working, because I'm demoing the wrong folder. Look at that. That happens too. See, look, check this out. So I've got all these demos here under IS250, and I had the other one open. So this is another danger. This is why file management is so important. So let me go ahead and change this to Unit 11, and enter, and there we go. And I'm still not seeing the display grid. I don't know why. Let's see here. Yeah, that's working. Okay, let's check it out. And this one was 40M, 60M. I'm going to change the color here just to make sure the media query is working. It's a good tester to see if that's what's failing or if it's something else. And yeah, it's giving a border of red there. It's changing all the text, so that part of it's working. So something about the display grid is not working. Now normally, I mean, what I was expecting to happen is that when you do a display grid, it immediately tries to start finding spots for things and arrange things in, columns and rows. That's what I was expecting to happen, but something else that's worth pointing out here is that not all browsers treat things the same. So if I tested this beforehand in like Chrome, for instance, I might get a different result than testing this in Edge, which I'm doing right now. It's possible. So what I'm going to pop over here and do is I'm going to go to the website that I told you about a couple days ago, which is caniuse.com, just to see if there's any issue there. Don't think there is. We went here before, and Edge seems like it should be fine with it. And let's go ahead and try doing some more specific stuff here. So generally speaking, you don't do a display grid on its own, even though I expected something to happen here. Usually what you do is you specify a grid template along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and specify the grid template and see if we can get this thing working here. So the grid template is where you specify the columns and rows that you're planning to use. And it's kind of like okay, so generally speaking, like if we had more time, what you would be doing is you would be taking your design and sketching it out on paper or using some digital tool to sketch out like, yeah, this is what I want to happen with the layout. And then you can kind of superimpose a grid on that. For now, let's say all I know is that I want 2 columns here. So I'm going to specify the grid columns here. So it's going to be grid template columns. I'm not sure if this is the first CSS property we've used that has 3 words crammed together. But let's go ahead and say, gosh, I just want something to happen here. I'm going to say 50% and 50%. So this is what you do. If you want 2 columns, then you specify what you want the width of each column to be. There's other values that you can use here. You can use pixels, you can use ems. You can use auto, which means it'll fill up whatever space is available to it. So let me go ahead and save over here and refresh. And okay, so apparently Edge is a browser that needs you to specify that beforehand. I'm pretty sure I tested it in Chrome before and it does not require that. So different browsers do different ways. So right now this is set to 50% each, which looks terrible, of course. So let's go ahead and change that. So I want this one here to be narrower, of course, and I want this one here to be wider. So let's go ahead and use those other measurements we were talking about here. So I'm going to use like, get back to M's here, use 20M, and then auto. So what this should do, I'm being careful about my proclamations now, what it should do is give not an absolute measurement, M's are not absolute, but it'll give kind of a reasonably fixed width to the first column, and then the remaining column, which will have the main and the footer, will take up whatever space is left over after the 20 M's is used up. So let me save it over here and refresh, and there we go. So if we resize and start pulling it down, well, it doesn't have much room to do anything, but if this were resizing, then this is the one that would resize, and this is the one that would stay. Let's go ahead and change the max width to 100% so we can see that working. Okay, so now it's allowed to go the whole window, and when I pull this in, you can see that this first column is staying reasonably fixed. You know, obviously if I change the size of the text, things can move around. That's why I say it's not absolute, but staying firm over there, and then the other side is wrapping, or not wrapping, but resizing next to it. So that's what auto does when you're specifying these columns. And so let's go ahead and scroll down here. Now what's happening is that it's got three elements inside div, the page div, right? It's got the header, and then it's got the main, and then it's got the footer. And what it's doing is it's taking the first available space. It's saying, okay, well, you've given me two columns. I've got three things to put in there. So I'm going to put the first two in the first row. So you're going to give me two columns. And then the next one, I'm just going to take the third element and put it in the first row. So it fills these in, you know, just as it can, basically, and it's leaving this last grid module empty. So what we can do is we can start specifying start and end columns and rows for these elements. So I'm probably going to have to do a little juggling here, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the footer. And what I'm going to do, I'm trying to push it over here. So let's go ahead and try doing a grid column start and say 2. I want the footer to start in the second column, not the first one. So I refresh over here, and there we go. So this is now in the correct column. There's some other things going on though, and one of them is that I don't want this to come all the way down here. This looks kind of like a weird checkerboard thing. I think I just want this to have the same height. Now if you're using grid, what that means is that you now have to specify the number of rows here. I have to have a row that stops wherever I want this guy to stop, and then this one's going to span 2 rows, and then this one's going to have its own row. So yeah, it gets a little complex, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Let's go ahead and do this. So in addition to, there we go, in addition to the grid template columns, let's specify grid template rows. And let's say I just want the navigation header over there just to be a square. So I'll make that 20M, and then do auto and auto. And let's see what this may screw things up completely here. Let's go ahead and check it. Okay, yeah, it did. So it pulled this guy up, but it also pulled this up as well. It looks like it's trying. Here's what it's trying to do. It's trying to do, like before, the first 2 elements in the first row, and then the only other remaining element is trying to put in the second row, which we've said is here, except it's putting in the right because we told it to start on column 2. So we have to do a little bit more juggling here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try taking main, and I'm going to try to do grid row end, and tell it which row I want it to end on, just 3. And yeah, good times. Let's see here. So let me see what I did before. So main grid row start 1, grid row end 3. Yeah, so let's go ahead and go back. You can specify not only where it ends, but where it starts, just like we did here. So let's do grid row start and 1. And I may have to specify where it starts with the column too. It's really shuffling everything around here. Column start 2. There we go. Okay. So you just have to kind of keep shuffling it around until things start working, and now that's all I needed. So I was actually expecting more. I thought I was going to have to do some stuff to the header here as well, but apparently this is all that was required. So I started by doing this guy down here, and that messed everything up. But once I got these guys in here and told the browser firmly where I want main to sit within, column-wise and row-wise, then things worked out. So I'm just going to just fix this a little bit over here, as we talked about. Hide, thank you. So this one I should really, let's see, what did I call it up here? I called this structural up here, so let's go ahead and do the same thing down here. it's a good idea to try to match up your comments across these different media queries. There we go. And then I think that I'm going to do something with the navigation, which I guess is really this heading and the navigation, but I don't know, we'll see. So I want to rechange, I want to override the flex flow again. Remember, we started out with a flex flow of column no wrap, and then when we got to here we switched it to row no wrap, and then back here I want to switch it back to column no wrap. So let's go ahead and do that. Nav flex flow column no wrap. Oops. There we go, and I'm going to get rid of this border left on these guys. So nav a plus a it was, and we'll do border left none, and there it goes. And let's just take this and the heading here and align them both right. And that'll be done by different techniques here. So for the H1, it's simple enough. This was under, I think, type formatting. And just do an H1 text align. And kind of push it over there. I think it's fine to have right aligned text butting up against left aligned text with a gutter in between like we're doing here. And, you know, I can try this, see if this is going to work. I have my doubts, but if it doesn't, then we've got something else we can try here. Actually, it did work. Okay, cool. That's something I'd want to check in every browser. What I thought I was going to have to do instead, and so I'll go ahead and show it to you before we finish, is to do, let's see, actually just in here, I think we can just do align items and end for right, and that would put, yeah, that does the same thing. But we might as well go for the simple solution. And just go ahead and do a text align right. As long as it works, then we're good to go. So I wound up with 2 media queries instead of 3. 2 media queries leads me to 3 views. So I've got this mobile view, which this guy is going to be tucked up here at some point, not this term. And then we get kind of a tablet view with the navigation running horizontally along the top. And then we get more to a narrow desktop view. And, you know, at this point we could put in another max width on the page and so on. But yeah, 2 columns down to 1 column and down to this very simple mobile view here. Okay, so I wound up getting tripped up a couple of times there, but we got to where we needed to be in the end. So does anyone have any questions about anything that we just did? I wouldn't be surprised if you did, because that was a little bit jagged. Okay. You guys try it out yourselves. Do 1 media query. I'll modify the assignment and put it up for you guys. All you have to do is 1 media query, and I just want the layout to change using like Flexbox, using Grid, you know, whatever you guys latch onto that works for you. At this point, I'll be happy for that. And then we'll still have 1 remaining week. I mean, we'll be moving on to JavaScript over the weekend. But after that, we'll still have somewhat of a week where, as we're doing JavaScript, you can still be working on your CSS if you're not happy with the design the way it is by the end of this week. So let me go ahead and stop the recording.
This is all on that 4-page website that we have?
Yeah, same project.
Okay, cool. Just adding, what was it, media query, and what was the second thing?
Yeah, media query, and just have the layout change when the media query fires. So like.
Okay, cool. I'll work on that.
Yeah, so I've got a couple in here, but if you just do a media query here, and then you can use either Flexbox or Grid. I recommend trying them both out because they're both really good at different things, so that you've got some kind of responsive design going there.
Cool.
Good. Other questions? I'll go ahead and zip this up, this ending file at the end of class, and throw that up on Classroom Stream for you. Someone remind me so I don't forget, please. I'll go ahead and stop the recording here.